What is up, guys? This is Pinzo back with another video today, and what I have for you guys is a little bit something different. This is a video that I said I was going to do. I just talked about it on stream, and then finally going to sit down and do it, guys. This is a video talking about the 1.4 rework. So for those of you that don't know, a bunch of Paragon heroes, well, a lot of the Predcast, a lot of the characters in Predecessor, not just the Paragon heroes, but some of the Predecessor originals, I'm assuming, are getting reworked in 1.4. It's kind of the patch to distance from Paragon. There's a lot of issues with a lot of the Paragon character kits. Just in general, they're kind of low skill a lot of the time, and they're a little bit annoying. And also, the other thing to just keep in mind is that Predecessor is sort of chained to Paragon. Like, if you don't keep the Paragon players happy, then that they won't play Pred, so you have to make the characters very similar. Anyway, this Reddit post was shown to me the other day. This is talking about, are all the heroes getting reworked in 1.4? And we don't know the extent of these reworks, just to be clear. We don't know if it's every hero. We don't know how much is actually changing. Is every hero getting 5 new abilities? You know, we have no idea, right? We don't know anything about this. But Carrie said, unfortunately, due to the scale of the update, it'll likely be the second week of March, which the update would have been the 25th. It would have been 2 weeks from Tuesday, and that's not going to happen. So the update does sound like it's getting pushed back a bit. I talked to the devs very, very little about this. I just kind of asked them what was up, and they basically said, because the update's so big, they don't want to ship it in like 2 parts. They don't want to do half the heroes reworked in 1.4 and half the heroes reworked in 1.4.x or 1.5, right? They just want to make sure all of them are, that all their reworks are finished and put into one patch is basically the answer that I got. So it's a bummer, but this is going to be a really big patch. Obviously, it's kind of hard because that's what they always say, right? The next patch is really big, right? But this is a really big patch, right? I'm really hoping that the content creators get to play this early so that we guys can get you some content on this before the heroes are all, before the patch comes out. I haven't gotten confirmation on that. I don't know, but fingers crossed. So I'll keep you guys updated. That's unfortunate, but today we're going to be going through and talking about what I would change about a lot of the heroes in Pred. So I made up a big note page. This is going to be a discussion as well, so if you guys have ideas or what have you in the comments, right? I did my best, but for some heroes, I kind of think their kits are all right? So like for small plus ones, I didn't really have anything, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on, you know, what I'm saying, what you guys think should change for certain heroes, right? I'm really curious to see what the community has to say. So, starting us off, Argus. This one is simple. I think his ult should go through enemies. I think it should pierce. You should be able to hit multiple ults. I think you do have to reduce the damage on this, obviously. You could make this do reduced damage to targets past the first, right? So, if you hit one person, it does full damage. If you hit up one person and then another behind them, it'll do full damage to the first guy and then maybe half damage to the second guy, something like that, right? Or you could reduce the overall damage and let it do full damage to everybody. But I think it'd be really cool if you could hit multiple people with Argus ult. It'd be hype, right? More than anything else. Aurora. Again, this one also is simple. This applies to a couple of heroes in the game. Let me flash while I'm channeling my ult. Aurora ult has a bit of a wind up to it. If you could flash during that, it would be really insane. It would probably be OP. You'd probably have to nerf the character, but it would be really cool. And I don't know. I just think that'd be neat, right? And again, for some of these, like, that's not a huge change, but like, I think Aurora's kit is pretty good, so I don't think you need to change her a crazy amount. But I don't know. Again, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Countess, this one's a little funky because this is something I've talked about a little bit, and the main issue with Countess is Shadow Slip. It's her Q. This ability is a little bit funky because it gives you immunity on the way to your target and immunity on the way back. So it's a little bit weird. Obviously, especially coming back, you're a little bit of a sitting duck because they know where you're coming back, and if you've played against Countess before, you know the timing on how to punish it. But I think that you have to change Shadow Slip. You could make it so that if you get hard CC'd, you can't TP back. But I think that's a little too punishing, to be honest with you. My idea was if you let Countess target her allies with her Q, obviously it wouldn't do damage to your allies, but let you teleport to your allies. I think that'd be cool. And what you would do is you would not let Countess Q and then Q back. You would take the cooldown on her Shadow Slip, which is 8 seconds at max rank. You probably reduce that down to 5 or 6, and then you let her go one direction. So she goes in, she does her damage, and then she's stuck in there with cooldown reduction, she's stuck in there for 3-4 seconds. And then if your allies are close, you can Q out, or if your allies aren't close, you're taking a 1v1, you can Q again for more damage. You'd probably have to reduce the damage a little bit, but I think it'd be neat, just the idea of being able to go in. If your team's nearby, you can still get out. Otherwise, if you queue into 5 people and your team's not there, you're dead, right? And right now, Countess can kind of queue into 5 people without her team there and walk away. So I do think it's a bit of a frustration point more than anything else. But I do think you have to change Shadow Slip. If you guys have a different idea, just let me know. Crunch. This character's broken. I don't know. I honestly don't know how you change this character without fully like reworking his kit the way that it works. He has a cool kit. It is just the amount of crowd control and how fast he can put it out is a little bit oppressive. I think you can take the stun off of his dash. You maybe make it a slow, just so that he has one less like true interrupt, right? His only interrupt in his kit would be his knockup. If you're using knockup, you're losing a little bit of damage. I think that'd be interesting. Again, I don't know exactly what that would do to the character. It's one of those where the character's kit is just so good that a nerf like that might not actually hurt him that bad. Decker. This is another one that's really hard to rework. Her kit is just really, really good. She has an infinity range stun. She has just a lot of lockdown on one person. She has really good area control. She does a pretty good amount of damage. If you make her cage, I do think it's her cage that has to change. If you make her cage stop allies movement, if your allies can't walk through it, I do think it adds a lot of skill to the character. You can totally bone your allies. I don't think it really reduces her power level that much. It would make her harder to play. So that'd be an interesting, it's kind of like, is this the right way to do it? Does it make her too inaccessible for lower ranked players? When you get caged by your Decker, do you just hate your life? Right, it's one of those that's kind of tough, but I think that would be a pretty good change to the hero. Drongo, this one was easy because Drongo really has one pain point in his kit, and that is his silence grenade. The fact that you can throw this on the ground and it lasts, whatever, 2.5 seconds, and you can't do anything about it is a really annoying ability. I think the way I would change this is make it silence when it hits the ground. So anyone standing in the area of the ability when it hits gets silenced for, you know, a second or a second and a half. You could make it kind of long because it's the Drongo silence is like a 20-second cooldown. It's a really long cooldown. But it doesn't just silence the area. So if you cleanse it, you're not silenced anymore. You can still make it do it. Currently, it applies his passive. It doesn't do damage per se, but it applies his passive while you stand in it. You can make it do that. You could even add damage to the ability as far as I'm concerned. But if you like, it would just silence when it hits. You could cleanse it and then still hit him. He would have to save it and use it more properly. He can't just throw it at his feet and stand in it. I think that would be a really good change. Feng Mao, this is another tough one because this is actually like a fairly skill-expressive hero. Number 1 change is to make his ult go on cooldown when you cancel it. That one seems pretty straightforward to me. Right now, there's literally no way to cancel Feng Mao ult and take the cooldown. If you cancel it and it doesn't hit, it doesn't go on cooldown. So you cannot take the cooldown of this ability. I think you should be able to. The only other thing I would possibly change about this character is his passive. It just makes for a very, very kind of unfair trading pattern in offlane. And then it sort of doesn't do anything if you play him in other roles, right? If you're playing Feng Mao jungle, your passive, it increases your clear a little bit, but like not, like, you wouldn't really care if you didn't have Feng Mao passive, you know what I mean? So it's really just in the offlane that his passive matters, and it just gives him this really, really, like, kind of unfair trading pattern at, like, level 1, 2, 3. So I think you could change it. I have no idea what you would give this character as a passive. I truly don't. You could give him, like, an in-combat passive. I don't know, like, kind of like Greystones, I guess. Like, every ability you hit gives you bonus power or something like that. I don't know exactly what you would do, but I do think he could use a new passive. Gadget. Gadget's a funky one. This character, the number 1 change I would make is make her hat smaller. Her Q, her mine that she throws on people. Make it smaller, at least the latch range. I don't know if they can make the grab range smaller than the explosion range. If they can, that'd be cool. I don't mind the explosion range on this ability. That's fine. But the amount of times that I'm not standing inside of a gadget hat and that thing grabs onto me is way too many. You know what I mean? I know you guys know what I mean. So that's the number one change I'd make. Outside of that, I'd probably change her passive. Her passive is quite good, which is why it's on a 45-second cooldown at level 1, right? I mean, it is... The devs obviously know that her passive is good because they put it on a 45-second cooldown, right? Like, it's almost negligible early game. And then by late game, it actually is a pretty good passive. But I don't know. I think you could change your passive and no one would care. Gideon. This one is funky. This is another character that I actually like. I think his kit is pretty good. Outside of, like, damage number changes, I think his kit's pretty solid. I think that the thing you could do to him, I think he could use a new passive if you wanted to give him a new one. His current passive isn't bad. It's pretty good in laning phase. Late game falls off, but pretty good in laning phase. The other thing you could do, I think if you reduce his portal's range, his teleport, if you reduced the range of that but gave him the super jump back, I think it'd be interesting. You could play Moonboots Gideon again. I think it would make him pretty much the same amount of safe as he is right now. But I think it would just give him a little bit more skill expression. If you aren't super jumping on your portal, you're obviously going much less far. I don't know. I think it'd be neat to see that come back. Greystone. Again, this is another character that's like super straightforward without giving him a full new ability. I don't exactly know what you like rework on this hero to make him a less kind of brain dead kit. I mean, he's obviously very simple, right? That kind of thing. The small change that I would make is let him use his ult while he's in the air. I don't know why. He can jump in the air. If he can gain, I don't know exactly what his horizontal leap is, but it's a lot, right? It's, 15 meters. If you can leap 15 meters after you already jumped in the air, I think you should be able to press ult in the air. You know what I mean? Just from a realistic point of view. That's the small plus one I'd give him. Grim. I would reduce his slow. I think his slow is super aids to play against. It just lets him run you down. I think it's super annoying. I kind of don't think it should be in the game, to be honest. I don't think characters should be able to, especially ranged characters, should be able to permanently slow you. I don't know. That might just be me. The only other thing I'd change on this character is I would make his Q less janky. There's a lot of times where, especially if you jump, if you leave the ground when you get hit by Grim Q, it really just, it gets really janky really quickly. And, like, there are times where you'll be running towards Grim, and if you jump when he hits you with his Q, it'll push you forward, even though he's hitting you with his Q in your face, and it should push you backwards. It's just a really janky ability, and I would like to see it cleaned up. Rux. Let's see what I wrote. Delete him from the game is what I wrote on my note page. I don't know what you do to this character, man. You could give him his Paragon dash back, but it honestly probably makes him better, to be honest, right? I think you probably reduce his lifesteal from his passive. He gains a bunch of lifesteal. He gains like 20% Omnivamp at level 16 from his passive, which is really ridiculous. You could reduce the power from his ultimate. Obviously, his ultimate shreds. It steals physical power. It reduces theirs, increases yours when you hit people. So physical characters just lose the matchup to Grux. The character's kit is kind of problematic. I think you would have to give him a new ability to make his kit less problematic, which, again, is kind of outside of the scope of this video. I don't know exactly what you would give him as a new ability. But let me know. If you guys got ideas, let me know. Howitzer. This one, I think, is easy. I think Howitzer should have Skylar ult. I don't know why they put Skylar ult on a carry. That should be a mage ultimate, in my opinion. I really want an area of effect, an AoE burst damage ultimate from a mid laner. There are none of them. There is not a single one in the game. Every burst damage ultimate in the game is single target, at least for mid laners, right? You have like Quang ultimate, which is AoE, but for mid laners, they're all single target. Moriel, Countess, right? Single target ultimates, and all of the AoE ultimates are damage over time, which I think it's a little missed opportunity. I was gonna say boring, but it's honestly less than that. It's a missed opportunity. I think Skylar ult on a mage would be really cool. It'd probably be pretty good, but you could nerf it. You could make it not be OP, but I think that'd be cool. Iggy and Scorch. This is a tough one. I said before Iggy ever came out that I wanted Iggy to be a character with turrets, not a turret character. There's a difference. It's true. I wanted him to be a character with turrets. Right now, as of right now, he's a turret character. I think you have to reduce the HP on his turrets even further. They've nerfed it a couple times in a row. I still think it's too much. And then the only other thing I said was, like, if you made the turrets less tanky so they were easier to kill, but if you made the turrets, every shot that they landed on someone gave Iggy like a stacking damage buff. So all of his abilities would do, you know, 0.5% more damage for each turret shot that lands. So if you have 3 turrets shooting someone at once, it'd be 1.5% extra ability damage every shot. And then make that last for, you know, 3, 4, 5 seconds, something like that. It would give Iggy a little bit of a different way to play, where you could, if people sat in your turrets for a long time, you would kind of obliterate them, right? Molotov is not a very high damaging ability, but it would start to be, you know what I mean? Especially against tanks, something like that. I do think that that'd be neat. I don't know if that's something that people would like, right? If the turrets were easier to kill, I don't think it'd be that big of an issue. If you just ignored them, then you're gonna get slammed. If you don't ignore them, then I don't know. Maybe you put more power into Iggy's Molly or something like that if you do that change. Kalari.
Your death is my mission. Nothing more.
This one's tough, because I just think Kalari's kit doesn't really fit in this game. I almost think she needs like a full new kit, to be honest with you. But I do think you could, I don't know. Like, I wrote on my note page, I wrote true stealth ? I don't think that would, I think it would help. It would make her probably too good if you gave her true invisibility. But I think her kit is just a little problematic. I just don't know how you make the character good without making her broken. I don't really, this is one of those that I don't really have a change for. There's a couple in here that I just really didn't have good ideas for. So let me know what you guys would do to Kalari, of course. Next up, Khaimera. This one was another one where this kit is pretty simple and it's pretty straightforward. I think it's supposed to be that way, right? Like, this is obviously like an intro level jungler. You have really healthy clear, you know, you have fast clear, you have lock-on abilities, you have unmissable abilities. I think this character is supposed to be pretty simple, and I'm okay with that, right? Like, every character in the game doesn't need to have some crazy skill ceiling, you know what I mean? I do think the one change I would make is make his jump have like a maximum follow distance, right? So if he jumps at me and I flash away, sometimes Khaimera Leap will just follow you. You know what I mean? If you time your flash wrong, sometimes it'll just follow you through your flash, or it'll do damage to you anyway. I feel like if I leave a certain radius of where his jump was targeted, it shouldn't hit me. It shouldn't be able to hit me, right? Something like that I think would make him less like frustrating to play against. Lock-on abilities are always frustrating to begin with. So the fact that like I dodged his lock-on ability and it still hit me is extra so, you know what I mean? Kira.
They think they can.
So is another one that she probably just needs a new ultimate, realistically. I don't know exactly what you do to her ult to make it not stink. It's a pretty stinky ultimate. I think you just need a new one. I don't know what it would be. I really don't, but let me know if you guys have thoughts. The only other thing that I know a lot of people really want on this character for some reason is for her to be able to dash vertically. But that, I will be honest with you guys, I don't think that changes anything about this character. I really don't. Her dash is not far enough to get out of pits. It barely goes over a lot of the walls. I don't think her being able to dash vertically will change anything, but it'd be cool, so I'd be fine with it. You know what I mean? It doesn't hurt. Quang. This is another one where I think the kit is fine. I think he probably needs a new passive. He basically has crunch passive, and they officially made it a worse crunch passive again. When Quang released, he basically has what his current passive is, which is half a second off of his cooldowns when he lands an auto. And then they buffed it to a second off of his cooldowns. And then he was really, 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 really good in the off lane for like, 6 months. And then they just nerfed it back to half a second. And it's officially just worse crunch passive, like, in every single way. There's not a single piece of Quang passive that's better than crunch passive. So, like, I think you'd probably give him a new passive. The only thing that I wrote is, like, an electricity passive, where if you get, like, 4 stacks of electricity on someone, they get stunned. which I think would be kind of neat, because if you full comboed somebody, if you hit all 4 of your abilities, if you ulted them, it would stun them, and that'd be kind of cool. Or if you had a bunch of ability haste online, you could do it with your base kit. If you got 2 rotations of your base kit, if you spaced out your abilities properly, that'd be kind of neat. I think it would probably be pretty good having a stun, but you have to keep in mind he would lose the cooldown reduction and the damage from his passive, so it would kind of even out a little bit. But again, another character that I think probably needs a new passive, but I really don't know what it would be.
You ready?
Bellica, pretty easy one. Make her ultimate a skill shot. Pretty straightforward. Just make her aim her ultimate, and that's pretty simple. If you really wanted to, I think you could let this go through enemies. It's a pretty small targeter. I think you could let this go through people. It'd be kind of neat. Maybe does reduce damage past the first person again, like we talked about with Argus. But I think if you make her aim her ult, the character's not like that. That's pretty much the only change she needs. Morigesh, this is one I've talked about a bit on stream, if you guys have been in stream. This one, I think, is a good change. Basically, what it would do is make her mark. When you mark somebody, right now it has infinite duration. They stay marked until you mark someone else. Make it have a limited duration, like 12, maybe 15 seconds maximum. But let her have multiple people marked. So if you mark, the tank in a fight, and then you mark the mid laner, and then you mark the carry, you could ult, and it would hit all 3 of them. I think that'd be really neat. I think it'd be a good change to her, because it'd be like, do I stay in I got 3 marks. I have enough time to get a 4th mark and then ult, but I would have to ult kind of in the middle of this team fight, right? I'd have to be close to them to be able to ult them. And, am I going to get stunned out of my ult? Or do I take the 3 marks that I have and I run away and get my ult off there for the 3 people instead of getting the 4th? I think it'd be a cool change to her. I think it would make her a little more interactive. You wouldn't be able to just like walk to duo lane and mark the carry and then sit in mid lane and ult them when they get ganked. That kind of thing. It'd just be, I think it'd be more interactive. Morn, obviously the newest hero in the game. I don't really have a change for him. Like, he just came out. I think his kit's pretty good. I don't really have issues with it at the moment. So I don't really have a change for this guy yet. Let me know if you guys have anything. But just because he's so new, I don't know. Doc, another kit that's honestly pretty good. I think you maybe make his ult harder to hit, like a longer charge up or something like that. Or I think you reduce the damage on it. For some reason, Murdoch ult does true damage. I don't know why they think that's necessary. It ignores physical armor, which is technically not true damage. Okay, technically damage mitigation works against true damage. Damage mitigation would work against this. Technically, it's not true damage, but it ignores armor. It's effective true damage, which is really odd to me. I don't know why it's that. I really don't get it, but I would make it do less damage or make it harder to hit. Muriel, another kit that I actually think is pretty good. Muriel's passive is the one auto attack passive in the game that I don't mind. Because it does feel like a support passive. She's kind of this lane bully support, but then you can give your passive to your allies, which is the part that makes me not mind it, right? A lot of the other auto attack passives in the game kind of feel like placeholder. I don't really like them. We'll get to some more of those as we go down the list. But Muriel's is the one that I don't mind, so I really don't. Like, I kind of like this character's kit. Narbash, I think this one's pretty straightforward. You just don't let him infinitely use his E. You make it like an ability where he hits his E, everyone who's near him gains it, and then it heals them for, X healing over a couple seconds. And then it could be on a short cooldown. You could be able to spam it. You could increase the mana cost on this quite a bit, but just don't let him infinitely heal his team the way that he currently can. It's a little bit idiotic. It's a little bit brain dead. The character's already very easy to play. The only other change that you could add to Narbash, in my opinion, is letting him flash during his ultimate. It would make his ult considerably better, and it would make the character much better. You'd probably have to nerf him if you let him flash during his ult, but it'd be cool. FaZe. Again, another character that I just wrote delete the character next to. I think you have to change the pull. Either don't let FaZe pull an ally while they're hard CC'd, or maybe make the link break if they get hard CC'd. The only other change that I'd thought of is if you made FaZe like almost tanky, kind of, but then her pull let her pull herself to her allies. So you could pull yourself in. If your allies are behind you, you could pull yourself out. But you don't pull your allies to you, you pull yourself to them. I think that'd be neat. I think you'd have to change the character. You could keep her as kind of like an enchanter, but if you pull yourself in, you're obviously in danger, but now you can help your team, right? She obviously has a blind. If you pull yourself in, you get to blind them, that kind of thing. It'd be interesting, but I honestly don't really know. Rampage, another character that I very similar to Khaimera. I think he's supposed to be very straightforward. He's just a tanky version of Kai. I think if you really wanted to change him, I think you have to take power out of his rock. You have to like reduce the stun or something like that. And then you can maybe make him a little more bruisery, which is something they already tried. You know what it's 8 months ago, maybe they gave Rampage more damage when they reduced his stun and it made him broken. And now they had to nerf him back. So if you make him too bruisery, he gets OP. But if you make him too rocky, he also gets OP. So it's one of those where I actually quite like where Rampage Kit is at the moment. I don't think it's that bad. Rev. Another pretty straightforward one. I think you just take away some of his lock-ons. I don't think his E needs to be a lock-on. His Scar, I don't know why it is. It should just be an auto attack. Same with his ultimate. Should also just be a projectile that you throw at somebody. And if you hit them, you pull them in. Like if you guys have played Smite 2, Aladdin ult is pretty close to Revenant ult. It has some different mechanics, but the way that it initially acts is very similar to Revenant ult. You pull one person into a separate dimension, and it's a skill shot. You can miss it, right? And I just don't understand why Revs has to be a lock-on. I think it's kind of goofy. Richter, another character whose kit that I like. I think obviously you can change damage numbers. You could change his passive. His passive is just a health shield. They just buffed it last patch, but his passive is just a health shield. You could change that if you wanted, but I like his kit. I think his hook takes skill. I like that he has a silence. It's like his one peel ability. Like realistically, his ultimate and his silence are the only things he has to peel outside of hook, which is on a 20-second cooldown. And then he has a damage ability that gives him move speed. Like I think the kit's pretty solid. I don't really know what I would change about him. Not that. Sereth. This one's a little hard because she is pretty balanced at the moment, so I don't really know what I would change. In terms of like actually changing her kit, I think you could increase her damage, but then if you would have to decrease like either her mobility or the amount of cooldown reduction she gets on her passive when she picks up an orb, something like that, to make her a little less slippery but more threatening. So if you like increase the damage on her ultimate but decrease the CDR on her passive, it would make her more threatening, but it would also make her a little more counterplayable, where you have more windows to land your crowd control while she's trying to pick up that kill, because her Q isn't on a 2-second cooldown when you pick up an orb, or she doesn't have her jump right away. It'd give a little more counterplay, but it would make her more threatening. It'd be interesting, but realistically, I kind of don't think it's needed. I think her kit's kind of fine where it's at. Sevarog. This one, I think a lot of people want Sevarog's abilities to evolve when he gets stacks, which I do think would be really cool, but that would be like a full rework. That'd be a full rework. If you wanted Sev Q to like get bigger when you got to your stack limits, or his E to stun when you got to 120 stacks or whatever, right? Something like that, where his kit evolves as you gain stacks. It would be cool, and I would like that. I would imagine that's out of the scope of this patch. That's like a full rework to the character. I kind of don't think that's coming. The only thing that I would do to Sev right now is I would make his root like pull people out of the sky. When Sev uses his root, he like, and then it like spirals down into the ground. And if it pulled people from where the spiral was, it'd be really neat. You could like pull Skylar out of the air while she's flying with your Sev root. I think it'd be a really interesting thing to... It'd be like Grounded. Grounded is a CC in League of Legends, I believe, that stops people from using like any kind of mobility. I think it's kind of similar to a Cripple from Smite. But if it like grounded people, like where you could pull Howitzer down out of his ultimate or something like that, or Skylar out of her flight, obviously. I think it'd be a really cool ability. I think that'd be a cool change to him. Shinbi. This is one of the characters I was talking about when we were going over Muriel, where her passive feels like placeholder. It is an auto attack passive. She basically has Muriel passive. And it just feels like a placeholder. I would change her passive. I have no idea what I would make it. I think maybe you could give her a heal on kill, like a kind of like a Draconum proc, where she heals like 10% of her max HP whenever she kills somebody, something like that. That would make her kind of have this staying power in a fight almost. And I think that would be kind of neat. It's similar to like Ao Kwang passive from Smite 1, where he's a magical assassin, and when he kills somebody, he heals based on his max HP. So really, it's just like it'd be an interesting way to take the character, make her a little less just all in, get out kind of thing, maybe a little bit more all in. Oh, I can stay in a little bit, right? She has shields, obviously, if you gave her healing off her passive. Maybe it'd be too good. Maybe it would be terrible. I'm not sure. Skylar, this one is really hard because I don't think Skylar's abilities are an issue. I think the issue is that people can't interact with her, right? Obviously, Skylar, a flying character, a lot of characters in the game cannot interact with flying characters, so it's not really a Skylar issue. I don't think Skylar's kit is particularly overpowered. I think they nerfed her in the correct way. They made her take more skill to use, but I do think that the lack of interaction is the issue. So things like, again, we just talked about Sevarog being able to, if you made his root pull people out of the sky, stuff like that. Even Gideon Q was another one where Gideon Q, his rock comes out of the sky, but it doesn't hit people unless they're standing on the ground. If you made it hit people in the air where the rock is, right, that'd give him another ability that he could hit Skylar with while she's flying, right? Stuff like that. If you gave more counterplay to other heroes, Skylar wouldn't be as much of an issue, is kind of my point. Sparrow, another kit that's like fine in my opinion. I really don't think it needs that much of a change. I think you could give her a new ultimate. Her ultimate right now is pretty brain dead, but also I think it changes the character's like kit identity if you give her a new ultimate, if it's too different. So I think she's fine. She's a very simple, very straightforward carry, and I think in every role there should be characters that are simple and straightforward. I obviously understand that new play, like I want, you know, high skill ceilings for like a lot of the cast, but I understand that for every role you need base level characters to let people get in, and you know, for carries it's just hold left click, which is what Sparrow does. I understand that. I think her kit's fine. You could probably change something about her, but let me know what you guys would change. You know, I don't know. Steel, another one that like really isn't, I don't think his kit's the issue. He's very annoying. I think with how much CC he has, I think you probably should reduce his damage a little more, to be honest, at least early game. But that's also when like tanks are supposed to be strong. So it's one of those that's a little tough to say exactly. You could take the stun off of his right click, and if you made it like a slow, but made it do more damage, that'd be interesting. It would let him it would let him lock people down a lot less, but it would give him a little more damage. It maybe forces him into more of a bruiser role, but I don't think that's really the idea with Steel, right? He's supposed to be a big tanky guy, so I don't mind him having CC. I think maybe his damage is a little bit too high where it's at right now, mostly on his dash, but I do think the character's kit is really not the issue.
How are you feeling?
Terra, I think this one's pretty straightforward. I just think you should be able to activate your ult while you're channeling your abilities. Right now, if you're charging your dash, you cannot channel your ult. So if you're trying to get a max range dash, there's like a whole, you know, second and a half where you're charging it, where you're just kind of a sitting duck for crowd control. And if they stun you, your dash goes on half cooldown. So it's a little bit awkward. I think if you could just activate your ult at any time, right? If I'm charging my dash, I should be able to press R. If I'm using my Q, I should be able to press R. Right now, you can't. I think that would make the character feel a lot more fluid.
We are the
Faye, another pretty straightforward one. Right now, her ultimate is completely hard countered by cleanses. I think you just make her ult do half damage up front and half damage when it pulls, right? When you throw your ult, when the vines latch onto people, it does 50% of the damage. And then when they get pulled to the center, it does the other 50%. I think that's pretty much would be good. It would make your ult do something, even if they cleanse it, which in a lot of cases is kind of the difference between, you know, a I live here and an I die here. Because the ult does do quite a bit of damage. Even doing half up front would be enough for you to win a lot of 1v1s that you would otherwise lose because your ult got cleansed. I think that's a good change. Twin Blast, another kit that I like. I actually like this one. I don't think he really needs a lot of changes. I think he's fine. He's kind of an ability spamming carry. I like his ultimate. I don't know. I like this one. Let me know what you guys would change. Wraith. This one is another one where the kit is pretty problematic just as a whole. If you wanted to take power out of his abilities and put it into his auto attacks, he just... I feel like he'd be good, but not the best, right? I feel like he's always going to be kind of situational. And then if you overbuff his abilities, he just becomes the best hero in the game. It's just one of those where the character kind of sits on this knife's edge of broken and terrible. And I think you have to change something about the kit. But honestly, I really don't know what that would be. I mean, it would almost be giving him a new ability, maybe. But I don't know what you would change. Like, maybe you make Mark kind of like a single target ability, like a secondary snipe almost, so that you can't mark 5 people and get all your shots off. Maybe make it less forgiving. I don't know exactly what you would do to him to make him less of that knife's edge kind of hero. Yin. This one, I like her. I think that her kit takes skill. I think that she has good skill expression within her kit. I think the only thing I would change is that as of right now, her reflect, her right click, it's a bubble. You cannot hit Yin with a projectile while her reflect is active. It is not a front-facing ability, which I think is pretty goofy. Like, I kind of understand it. Her whip goes kind of all the way around her. But I would make this a front-facing ability. I would make this people in front of you. You know, you reflect projectiles that are on your screen. You don't reflect projectiles that are behind you. I think it's a little bit weird. I think that would make the... Again, I don't think this character is, like, super-duper broken at the moment. She has a lot of counterplay. But I do think it would add more to the kit if it wasn't just a full bubble of protection around you. Maybe you could reduce the duration on it. It's like 0.8 seconds for some reason, which is really long. You can maybe make it 0.5 and it'd still be fine. Xeris. This character is kind of OP. I think that he shouldn't be able to walk out of his ultimate. I think that'd be a really good change. Because if you ult in and you happen to be on 5 people, man, that is a you issue. You know what I mean? You ulted into that. I think you should be stuck there. He's this gladiator that wants to fight people in the Colosseum in his arena. Why should the guy who makes the Colosseum and wants to fight in it be able to run away from the battle when the guy that you stuck into the Colosseum can't? Right? I don't know. I think it'd be cool if he couldn't leave his ultimate. It would just add a little bit more to the hero where, like, oh, I'm in, you know, like, oh, I didn't ult in and I'm now running away. I am in there. I think it'd be cool. And then last but not least, Zinx. I don't really have any issues with this character. I'll keep it honest. I had issues with her when she released, but now that they've nerfed her quite a bit, I really don't mind. Her passive was the last big pain point for me. The fact that she could just gain 40% move speed just out of the blue was really odd. And they reduced that quite a bit. They've reduced the health that her ult res is at. I don't really mind this character right now. A lot of the time when you res someone, they just die anyway. I think you could make it like Khepri ultimate. Khepri ult is just Zinx ult, except significantly better. It does the same thing. You mark an ally, and it lets them... It gives them move speed while it's active, and then if they die, they res. But Khepri ult pulls them to you when they res. They res on top of the Khepri who ulted them. They don't res in place. Zinx ult is kind of just a death 2.0 meter. It just lets someone die again. In certain scenarios, it's better than that. You can do things like eat Feng Mao's execute and stuff like that. But you could make it where the res... You could change the res to be better, to do something, again, like Khepri ult maybe, where they pull to you. But I think that realistically, her kit is pretty fine where it's at right now. If you're really good at Zinx, then your reses still get values. So I do think the character is not bad. But that's all of them. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the reworks. What would you change about heroes, right? Do you think the things that I said were super dumb? What would you change? You know, I'm really curious what your guys' thoughts are. Try not to be too disappointed that the patch is getting delayed. If it's as big as we've heard, I feel like it's probably worth waiting for. So fingers crossed, guys. Stay strong. But as always, I've been Pinzo. This video's done so. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.